Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another of your Friday night spooky sessions with me, your host, Hedda Gold. I'd like to welcome one and all to yet another of our paranormal evenings together. Now, this is the Friday before next week's live stream. Just a little heads up for you. Next Friday evening, I'll be reading a fictional story about the Krampus for you, so we really will be getting into our spooky Christmas spirit. I've been asked to read some possibly winter solstice, more winter-based ghost stories. So I've looked long and hard, and tonight, instead of 2 medium-sized stories, I've found you 3 shorter stories. So they're all from sort of different perspectives, and I hope you enjoy each story. So with that, I hope that you are all relaxed, sitting back and ready to enjoy the first of our stories tonight, and it is called the Girl Chonu, and I really do hope you enjoy it. Of the old time, far up in the Sagunway River, a branch turns off to the north, running back into the land of ice and snow. 10 families went up this stream one autumn in their canoes, to be gone all winter on a hunt. Among them was a beautiful girl, 20 years of age. A young man in the band wished her to become his wife, but she flatly refused him. Perhaps she did it in such a way as to wound his pride. Certainly, she roused all that was savage in him, and he gave up all his mind to revenge. He was skilled in medicine or in magic, so he went to the woods and gathered a herb which makes people insensible. Then, stealing into the lodge when all were asleep, he held it to the girl's face until she had inhaled the odour and couldn't be easily awakened. Going out, he made a ball of snow, and returning, placed it in the hollow of her neck, in front, just below the throat. Then he retired without being discovered, so she could not awake, while a chill went to her heart. When she awoke, she was chilly, shivering, and sick. She refused to eat. This lasted long, and our parents became alarmed. They inquired what ailed her. She was ill-tempered. She said that nothing was the matter. One day, having been sent to the spring for water, she remained absent so long that her mother went to seek her. Approaching unseen, she observed her greedily eating snow. Asking her what it meant, the daughter explained that she felt within a burning sensation, which the snow relieved. More than that, she craved the snow. The taste of it was pleasant to her. After a few days, she began to grow fierce, as though she wished to kill someone. At last, she begged her parents to kill her. Hitherto, she'd loved them very much. Now she told them that unless they killed her, she would certainly be their death. Her whole nature was being changed. "How can we kill you?" her mother asked. "You must shoot at me," she replied, "with 7 arrows. And if you can kill me with 7 shots, all will be well. But if you can't, I shall kill you." 7 men shot at her as she sat in the wigwam. She wasn't bound, and every arrow struck her in the breast, but she sat firm and unmoved. 49 times they pierced her. From time to time she looked up with an encouraging smile. When the last arrow struck, she fell dead. Then they burned her body as she directed. It was soon reduced to ashes, with the exception of her heart, which was of the hardest ice. This required much time to melt and break. At last it was all over. She had been brought under the power of an evil spirit. She was rapidly being changed into a Chonu, a wild, fierce, unconquerable being. But she knew it all the while, and it was against her will. So she begged that she might be killed. The Native Americans left that place. Since that day, none have ever returned to it. They feared lest some small part of the body may have remained unconsumed, and that from it another Chonu would rise, capable of killing all who she met. So, a story of unreturned passion. They say there is nothing like a woman scorned, but men can be just as revengeful as women can be when they don't get exactly what they want. I think they're equally matched, don't you? So this was your first story, ladies and gentlemen. So I'd now like to go on to our next story, which, like I said, is another short one, and it's entitled Christmas Eve. And I hope you enjoy this one as well. Christmas Eve. The Allen family are jovially celebrating and having a grand time. The Christmas spirit has never been stronger. There is absolutely nothing that could ruin this lovely evening. The Allen father excuses himself, saying that he's going to retrieve an unspecified item. He leaves the dining room with his family awaiting his return. Unbeknownst to the children, the father would appear again, but wearing a Santa's costume, acting as a gift bringer for the family, bringing joy into their lives. Time passed, but Santa never came. With the unusual absence of the father, the evening soured. The children loudly wailed. Grandpa got angry, Grandma wept, and the mother's worries grew worse. The Allen father never returned. What seemed to be the greatest Christmas Eve of all turned out to be the most horrible of them all, a night to remember. The Allen family moved on with their lives, but never getting over the frustrating disappearance of their dear father. Years passed. The children grew up. Grandma and Grandpa died. The mother remarried. And lastly, the house where the haunting Christmas Eve had taken place was sold. It didn't take long for another tragedy to befall the house. An unknown source caused the house to catch on fire. The house burned thoroughly, and nothing was left of it. The little which remained of the house was the chimney that had toppled during the fire. Authorities investigated and discovered the answer to the mystery of that tragic Christmas Eve so many years ago. The skeleton of Santa Claus. And that's what happened to Father Alan. I can guess what happened to him. Do you agree with me? Let me know what you think. What you think happened to him. But I think I've got a good idea. What a shame. I'm now going to go ahead with your third story now. And the first one was sort of historically creepy. More of a, a tale, a folk tale almost. The one just before there was decidedly creepy. But this one, I'm not quite sure what you'll make of this one. But you can let me know at the end. Anyway, I hope you're continuing to relax. Excuse me, I'm going to take just a little drink. Because all this reading is quite thirsty work, you know. L'chaim, by the way, to life. This story is entitled, My Son Heard Santa on the Roof, but I don't think it was Santa. My son heard something on the roof last night. Police lights cover our living room as I type this. It was Christmas Eve and we were all tucked into bed, like we should have been. That was when I heard a pounding sound coming from the ceiling. My wife rustled a bit in her sleep but remained still. I, on the other hand, couldn't. I got up out of bed and went to go and check on my son. When I got into his bedroom, he wasn't there, which scared me. I rushed out of his room and looked over the stairs balcony into the living room. There was my son, standing in front of the chimney, next to all the presents my wife and I had wrapped just an hour ago. Great, I thought. It looked like we'd get no sleep before we'd have to start opening the presents. I journeyed down the stairs and made my way past the kitchen and into the living room. Hey, champ, I said in a groggy voice. What are you doing up so early? My son turned to me and said, I heard Santa Claus on the roof and I wanted to come down and see him. I lifted a brow as I glanced at the presents he was steadily ignoring beside him. Well, looks like Santa brought you a lot of gifts this year. You must have been a good boy. My son looked to the ground with a frown. Why the long face, bud? Santa says you wrapped those gifts yourself. Oh yeah? You've talked to Santa, have you? He looked back down at the floor. He told me not to tell you. This had me a little worried. I wondered if my wife had taken our son to a mall, and seen the Santa there, and maybe been drunk and spilled the beans about the magic of Christmas to our child. Don't listen to that Santa, buddy. Those presents have Santa's name on them. Now, how about we open some gifts? I'll wake your mum up, and as soon as I make her a cup of coffee, we'll open these bad boys, okay? turned his back to the chimney, and I went to go and brew my wife a cup of coffee. And as I brewed the coffee, I could hear my son whispering something to himself. "Hey, bud, who are you talking to?" He turned around and said, "Santa." Then he fell to his knees and collapsed onto his palms. I looked towards the chimney and saw a long, slim, black and grey striped sweater arm going down the chimney with a long-fingered, bony hand around my son's ankle. I dropped the mug of coffee to the ground, shattering it to pieces, and took a few steps forward, but it was all fruitless. The chimney absorbed my son, pulling him upward into it. His screams echoed off the bricks until the only thing I could hear was pounding on the ceiling. No, the rooftop. I ran outside, ignoring my wife's yells from upstairs, and quickly peered up at the roof, where a tall, scrawny, old, bearded man stood. His eyes were sunken in, and the eyes themselves were pitch black. Antlers extended out from his forehead, stretching out towards the night sky. He had a bulging sack over his shoulder. It must have been my son, squirming inside the bag for dear life. The bearded man looked over at me, put a finger to his lips, then leapt to my neighbour's rooftop, and then to the next, until he was out of sight. My wife ran inside to me and asked where our son was. I told her to phone the police, which she did. And that brings us to where we are now. Police have questioned me repeatedly, and at first I gave them the true story of what happened. When they didn't buy it, I changed my story and they threw it up to me, being shaken by what had happened. In the end, I told them there'd been a robbery and my son had been kidnapped. What I told the police before, though, was that my boy had heard Santa on the rooftop. But I don't think it was Santa. Well, what do you think of that? I mean, you've got to admit, that is all rather spooky, all rather crazy, and absolutely horrifying, isn't it? Absolutely horrifying to think that, I mean, it's hard to be believed that something, it just sends shivers down your spine, actually thinking or feeling that something like that might happen to you, or to someone that you love, particularly a child. But it just beggars belief. And it makes you wonder, where do those children go to? Where do they end up? Particularly in these kinds of stories. They never say where the children end up, do they? They never say they were taken off to a cave, or they were taken to a dungeon, or anything like that. It's just left up to our imaginations to try and work out what happened in the end. And sometimes our imaginations can be our worst enemies, because they play havoc absolute havoc and then get played out in our dreams, which become nightmares. The imagination is a very powerful thing. I hope I don't dream about any of those 3 stories tonight. I must admit, I don't think I would be particularly happy dreaming about any of those. Do you? So, Christmas will be upon us very, very soon. And just as a reminder to you that next Saturday night is your Christmas in the Haven, and you know that I'm going to be reading A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, and it's going to take quite a long time to read because it's the full story. There isn't really an abridged version because it takes away from the main meat of the story, and you know, if he penned the work, then it's only right that we read it thoroughly to pay him justice. I think that's the only right way to do it, to get all of the story in. And there's a lot more to that story than even I realised. I'd obviously skimmed over bits when I was younger. It's only now when I've reread it, I realise what a rich story it actually is. And of course, I've got great memories of Alistair Sim playing Scrooge in that 1951 production, I think. That's my favourite Scrooge, really. I'm trying to think of my favourite Christmas movie, and it's a bit of a family tradition. We watch Alistair Sim's Scrooge every Christmas Day. But I can't end a Christmas Day without watching It's a Wonderful Life. And that in itself is a bit spooky, isn't it? A man thinking that if he'd never been born, life would be better, and an angel saves him and shows him what life would be like if he'd never been born. And what a bleak life it would have been for so many. But again, a little bit paranormal, because do we believe in angels? You know? I don't know what that spooky noise was, but I can tell you now. It's 4-legged, furry, starts with a C and ends in A-T. So I don't know what the cat's doing down the back of the chair, but he'll be doing something. Yeah, he's definitely doing something. I didn't want you to think that it was anything paranormal. It definitely wasn't. It was the cat. Right, well, I know it's a little bit earlier, but it's been a long day, guys. And, you know, today I did the little video announcement for you earlier. I've opened up the Facebook group for you now, and there are quite a few Haveners over there. So if you would love to join them, please do. You know, you're very, very welcome. We've got some faces in there that I've actually never spoken to before, but have been in the Haven for months. Who knew? So I think us having a Facebook group is a very, very good idea. And I'm only going to be admin for a short time. Your admins and residents are Steph, Daphne and Candice. We may need more in the future. It depends on the numbers. We'll just have to see. We're just going to take it a day at a time. But from what I can gather, it's been a very good thing. And it's only been day 1. So let's hope it goes from strength to strength, in exactly the same way that the Haven has. And the same values apply to the Facebook Haven group as here in our Haven. Kindness, respect, and to make sure that no one is ever left feeling alone. No one is ever alone. Not anymore. Because you have here to come to, and you can connect to each other every day now the Facebook group is open. And don't forget, in my video today, if you want the link, it's in the pinned comment right at the top. You can't fail to miss it. So please just click on the link and you're straight there. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you yet again for being here with me. I'd like to thank you very, very much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed tonight's stories and that it's given you something to think about, maybe given you a few spooky shivers. Next Wednesday I will be reading in the Wednesday Folk Tales. It's going to be How the Grinch Stole Christmas by Dr. Seuss. Then on Friday it's going to be the Krampus Christmas story. And then Saturday it's Our Life. So at least you know what your itinerary is going to be over the next few days in the Haven. If I can squeeze another video in earlier on in the week, I'll do my very best and hopefully try and give you some updates and make sure that you're all well prepared for Christmas. I do love all of you. I'm sorry for being so tired tonight, but I've done my best. It's been a long day, but I do hope you've still managed to have a good old scary spooky time, and hopefully next week I'll be a bit more lively. I love you all. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend wherever you happen to be, and I hope it's a very, very relaxing and happy one. I will see you all very, very soon, and I'll probably see you in the Facebook group. I'll probably see you in the Facebook group even before then. So in the meantime, please take care of yourselves. Be kind to each other. And I'd like to wish you a very good night. Good night.